Welcome everyone to Insights into the Weekly Haftorah. This week's Parsha is Shlach, where the whole story, call it the tragic story of Moshe sending 12 spies to spy out the land in preparation for us to enter the land. We're ready to go. There's a whole discussion. Why did Moshe send spies? Why did he listen to the people? For those who just followed our last class on the book of Shmuel, a lot of it had to do with God listening to the people and appointing Shaul as king, and Shaul listening to the people and not fulfilling God's commandment. So there's a whole question. Did God command Moshe to send? Rashi says no. God says, if you want to send spies, that's up to you. Many commentaries say there was nothing wrong with them sending spies. In a wartime situation, you have to know about the enemy. This is very appropriate to the situation now. Israel is bombing Iran based on years of spy intelligence. We know where everything is, and we're going after it. So many commentators say there's nothing wrong with them sending spies, but it depends on the motivation. So in short, that the whole story of the spies, and they came back after 40 days, and 10 of the spies gave an evil report. 2 of the spies, Yoshua and Caleb, said, don't listen to them. We can go into the land. We can do it. God is with us. He has promised. The people did not listen. And in fact, they cried that night, which was actually the first Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. And the Midrash says, God said to them, you're crying for no reason. I promised to take you into the land. This day will become a day of crying for all generations. And of course, on Tisha B'Av, we commemorate the destruction of the 2 temples and many other terrible things that have happened through Jewish history. So we would expect the Haftorah to have something to do with sending spies. And of course, that's exactly what it is. It comes from the 2nd chapter in the book of Yehoshua. And it describes how Israel is coming into the land. And the first city they have to take is Jericho. And it says in the 2nd chapter of Joshua, he sent spies to spy out Jericho. So the first question that we ask is, after the terrible consequence of sending spies, we ended up wandering in the desert for 40 years. The spies were in the land for 40 days, and God said, a year for a day. So we ended up wandering for 40 years until that whole generation passed away. Excuse me. So the Haftorah tells the whole story of Yoshua. He sent 2 spies. By tradition, they were Caleb. He was the spy from 40 years before, and now he's being sent again, and Pinchas. It doesn't name them, but by tradition, those were the 2 spies. And the famous story is how they come to the inn or hotel of Rachav, and she is called a zona, which can be interpreted either as one who provides for other people, like someone who runs a hotel or an inn, or it can mean a prostitute. And different commentaries have different opinions. Was she a prostitute or just an innkeeper? The same word is used with Shimshon when he goes down to Azza, and it says that he went to the place of a Zonah. And there again is a discussion. Was this a prostitute or was this an innkeeper? In both cases, we'll say the majority opinion is they were prostitutes. Rachav was a prostitute. The Gemara says she was one of the most beautiful people in the world. And it says that every king of the entire Middle East went to be with her. But I'm going to go back just for a second as to why is Yeshua sending spies? He was one of the spies who came with Caleb, who came with a good report. But why take a risk again? So it's explained that, again, in principle, there was nothing wrong with sending spies. But the first set of spies, it was in a certain way, like let's say a king wants to conquer a certain area. So he sends spies to see, is it worth it? Is there anything there that we would risk a whole war to conquer it? That's one kind of motivation. And when we look in the text of Shalach, where Moshe sends the spies, the wording is it a good land? Is it not a good land? Are they strong? Are they not strong? Is there a tree there? And they brought back the produce of the land. In other words, it was kind of what the people thought they wanted to know. Is it worth us going? God has promised us the land, but is it for real? And the 10 spies came back and said, it is a beautiful land, but they are so strong. They're giants there and fortified cities. We will not be able to defeat them. And that led to the tragic 40 years in the desert and the whole generation dying out. The second reason to send spies is, as I mentioned, it's like today. It's intelligent. You're not questioning whether it's worth it to be prepared. Yeshua is sending spies. We're going in and we're taking Jericho. God has promised us the land, but we need to know how to do that. We need intelligence. We need spies to come back and tell us how will we go about this. Okay, so let's go back just to this idea of Rachav being a prostitute, this most beautiful woman. Nonetheless, when the two spies come there, the king gets word. We think that there's spies here from Israel, and he comes to Rachav and says, "Why have you taken them in? Where are they? They're spies." And Rachav says, "It's true, they were here, but I didn't know who they were, but they've already left. So if you go chase them really quickly, you'll be able to catch them." So the king followed her instructions. In the meantime, she had hid them on the roof. And she goes and says, I've already heard what God did by taking you out of Egypt and the plagues and splitting the sea. I know that this is God, and he is with your people. And one of her quotes, it's so important because it's included in the Aleinu prayer. The Aleinu, we end every prayer service with the Aleinu. And in the Aleinu is incorporated her words, where she says, Ki Hashem Elokecha, because God, your God, who Elokim, he is the real God. V'shemayim mima'al ve'al mitachat. Those are the words that are included in the Aleinu. that God is God in the heavens above and the earth beneath. And she basically had already decided that she wanted to be part of the Jewish people. But now she asked for a special favor. She said, I've just saved your lives, but I want to be part of you, but you need to do something for me now. And that is save my family. Because I know you're going to come to Jericho and you're going to defeat Jericho and you're going to defeat the whole land. You're going to take over the land. But I want you to promise me that you'll save my family. And so the two spies said, okay, when we attack Jericho, make sure all of your family is in this place and hang. She lived literally on her inn was on the wall of the city. And they said, hang a red like rope or material so we can identify your place and we will save you. And so she gave him advice of how to escape, and they escaped and they come back to Yoshua. And the last verse of the Haftorah, they come back, it says, V'yamru el Yoshua, ki natan Hashem biyadenu et kol haaretz. And they came back to Yeshua and they said, God has given us the whole land. V'gam namgu kol yoshvei haaretz mipanenu. And the hearts of the nations have melted before us. And that is, how did they know that? Because Rachav told them that. Rachav told them, I'm in touch with everyone. I know everyone. And I can tell you, everyone is terrified. Everyone's heart, that's the language that she used. The hearts of everyone have melted. So those who followed our series on the books of the prophets, so we went into this in great depth. So I just want to mention one thing here is, first of all, this was a great tikkun that Yoshua did. It's very similar to this idea that if you fall off a bicycle, the first thing you should do is get back up onto the bicycle and ride. Because if not, you'll be traumatized from the event and you'll be scared of bikes forever. And this is such deep psychological advice. So here, the first time in the Torah when they send spies, it ended in a disaster. So you might think, well, we should never have intelligence again. We should never try to have spies so we know how to fight wars. So Yeshua is doing a great tikkun here by doing it in a proper way, because his sending spies wasn't, should we take Jericho? Can we take Jericho? It was, God has promised us, but we have to do what's called our hishtadlut. We have to do our part of the bargain. But I want to end with this, an awesome thing that the Arizal reveals about Rachav. If we go back to the story of Yosef and the wife of Potiphar, the wife of Potiphar, Yosef, first of all, is described as being incredibly beautiful. And actually, there are a couple of references to his beauty and his charisma and his success. And so the wife of Potiphar wants to have relations with him. And the idea is that she's overcome with physical desire. But the Arizal points out that part of her motivation was that she saw in unclear prophecy that somehow she was meant to be with with Yosef. She was meant to be with Yosef. And so she had, we'll call it, two motivations. This is like most people. we have a good inclination and an evil inclination, a Yetzer Tov, a Yetzer Ra. And sometimes both of them are operating and sending mixed messages. So yes, she had raw desire to be with Yosef, but also there was a spiritual element there that she felt drawn to him on a soul level. So the Arizal explains that later the part of the soul of Yosef is incarnated in Yehoshua. And the good part of the wife of Potiphar is incarnated into Rachav. And according to tradition, after this whole incident of this Haftorah, Yoshua, Rachav converts, and Yoshua marries Rachav. And so here we see a tremendous tikkun, that the good part of the wife of Potiphar, her unclear prophecy later was realized, that she really was meant to be with Yosef, but not then, only when Yosef becomes Yoshua and she becomes Rachav. So this is an incredible revelation of the Arizal, seeing how sometimes stories take lifetimes to play themselves out.